settlement and closing have very different meanings. Settlement is part of closing, but it is not the end of the closing. Yes. Pretty good idea. If something has a black box around it, that it's probably something you should really, really pay attention to. The contract's very careful to define settlement and closing differently. A lot of times people come to our office, they sit at the table, they sign, and they think they're done. If I had to guess, I know what you tell them at the table. It's probably the same thing I tell them. When people are like, okay, we're done now, right?
Can I have my money?
Yeah, can I have my money? What do you tell them?
Once everybody has signed, if they're all at the same table and we have all the funds, so we have to wait till we have all the money from the lender or buyer, if they're sending in money or gift funds. Everybody has to sign everything, has to be notarized. And then we have to take it to the county, get it to the county some way, somehow. We have to have an update on making sure nothing has been filed since we originally checked for the title search. Mm-hmm. And then once everything is clear on that end, the county records it. And then once we get it back from the county, then everything will be processed out. Then the money is dispersed. Mm-hmm. You know, it's always there are certain time frames for as long as a county takes, and sometimes they are slow. Mm-hmm. And then once we get it back, depending on how many disbursements are in line ahead of you, give them a little bit, there's been a couple hours between when it's recorded and when we can disperse, but they have to wait. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's not instant. Like e-recording, people will think, well, just e-record it and say, well, if you just go e-record it real quick, that's a digital line, just like a standing in person line. The only thing we don't have to do is drive. So,
right.
We might save a few spots by not having to drive there, but you're still standing in line.
Yep, you still get in line when,
There's still
somebody else is recording ahead of you. You still have to wait for that other person to, get everything through. And you still have to wait for the county to respond and send you the recorded document.
I know. And another thing is, if for some reason there's an error electronically, they just reject it and then you have to get back in line. It's not like you get to hold your place. If you're standing there to record it and they're like, oh, you're missing a comma here. And it could be something as simple as missing a comma. You just fix that thing and you don't have to go back to the end of the line.
Right.
So there can be advantages to not e-recording, but that, digress a little bit. I think you just gave a really simple explanation of the definition of closing, because people will think that the settlement is the closing because they say we're going to closing. The contract calls that the settlement. Mm-hmm. The actual signing, delivering the papers. If you're a mail away, it's the delivery of the signed documents to our office. That's the settlement. And then the closing is when settlement has happened, the title update is satisfactory, the closing attorney has gotten authorization to disperse all the funds, meaning we've got the funds too, and then the documents being recorded. And then, and only then, can the proceeds be dispersed. I think that's an important thing to clarify. Settlement and closing have very different meanings. Settlement is part of closing, but it is not the end of the closing.
Yes, the closing is the close of your file, that everything is said and done.
Yeah. Settlement
is when everyone has signed and we are ready to continue on with the
the signing of the paperwork is just the... it's not the first part of our process. We do way more stuff than that, and we've been working on the file for quite a while by the time you sign. But when we're getting to like the nitty-gritty, that's the thing that kicks off the flow of things.
That's the excitement.